And he said, I think she's been kidnapped for ransom.
A device brand misremembered. Someone who knew instantly what the entire investigative team took months to conclude. An answer that sidesteps a direct question about family suspicion, and a belief, stated publicly in March, that the case file would later quietly call into question. Let's look at all four. I'm Marcus Wren, the creator of the Tell Index, a framework for analyzing statements and behavior in criminal cases. Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, disappeared from her Tucson, Arizona home on February 1st. Today's video analyzes Savannah's first interview about the case, with Hoda Kotb, aired in 3 parts on Today on March 26th to 27th, roughly 7 weeks after Nancy disappeared. This is a standalone script analyzing Savannah's actual words, cross-referenced against what the case file has confirmed both before and after this interview. Hit subscribe if you want to see more analysis like this. Right after recounting the last evening she saw her mother, Hoda asks Savannah about the moment she reunited with Annie and Tommaso in Tucson.
You saw
Really make clear from the very early moments, Annie and Tommy were saying this isn't that case that you are used to where someone wanders off. She can't wander off. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was in tremendous pain. Yeah. Her back was very bad,
A small detail, easy to miss inside an emotional passage explaining why her mother couldn't have wandered off. But precisely because it's small and unscripted, it's worth cross-checking. Cross-checking this against the case file. The doorbell device at Nancy Guthrie's home has been confirmed repeatedly by multiple independent sources as a Nest, Google's doorbell camera line, not Ring. NBC News, NPR, Fox News Digital, and The Hill all name it explicitly as Google Nest in coverage from February 10th to 15th. Even Ring's own CEO, Jamie Siminoff, when criticized for commenting on the case, referred to Nancy's camera as being from our competitor Google Nest, meaning even the head of the Ring brand publicly confirmed it wasn't his company's product. Per the Pima County Sheriff's Department, the camera disconnected at 1:47 a.m., and at 2:12 a.m. the software detected motion but recorded no footage because there was no paid subscription. It's worth being fair here, and only once in this video. Misremembering a device brand while recounting one of the most painful moments of your life is entirely human. Memory under high emotional stress often doesn't hold on to technical details accurately, even for someone very close to the events. A few minutes later, asked directly about rumors suspecting family members, Savannah doesn't push back directly but instead pivots to specifically praising 2 relatives.
It's our shining light. She's our matriarch.
What's notable here is the structure of the answer. Hoda's question is about how Savannah personally weathered the rumors, but the answer immediately shifts to defending Annie and Tommaso by name, rather than addressing her own experience. The way this interview itself was conducted was publicly questioned, too. The same day the interview aired, journalist Megyn Kelly said on her own podcast that Hoda Kotb never followed up with basic questions, including never asking what exactly was meant by the door being propped open, and didn't press further on new details about Nancy's physical condition that Savannah had just revealed. Kelly argued NBC chose a host who was personally close to Savannah to create warmth rather than rigor, and even kept Kotb's microphone open during emotional moments to heighten the effect on air. If that assessment holds, Savannah's sidestepped answer here may simply reflect that she was never pressed further to clarify it, rather than a deliberate evasion. Cross-checking this against the case file, it's important to place this in the right context. This defense doesn't contradict the official conclusion. Sheriff Chris Nanos publicly cleared Annie and Tommaso of suspicion as early as mid-February, and reiterated that conclusion multiple times since. Per AOL, public pressure continued regardless, to the point that Tommaso and Annie had to post no trespassing signs outside their home, and one source said they deserved an apology for continued suspicion despite being cleared. So Savannah's praise, even though it doesn't directly answer the question asked, is actually reinforcing the exact conclusion law enforcement had already officially reached. But one thing is worth adding. A family member speaking up to defend relatives, however sincere, doesn't automatically erase the statistical likelihood that whoever is behind a disappearance is often someone in the victim's own close circle. Forensic psychologist Dr. Gary Brucato, analyzing this same case publicly on a separate live stream, cited figures showing roughly 92% of female murder victims are killed by someone they knew, and that most disappearances of older adults, when there is a motive at all, trace back to someone in the household rather than a total stranger. This isn't a suggestion that Annie or Tommaso were involved. They were officially cleared. It's why public suspicion naturally gravitates toward the inner circle, regardless of who speaks up in someone's defense, and why vouching for someone personally, however true, can't fully substitute for an official clearance based on evidence. Right after the scene description, Hoda asks Savannah what the family discussed about what might have happened.
Did you guys talk about what possibly could have happened? Like, what could have happened? What went down? Did you?
I think my we still don't know. Honestly,
This is worth noting on a timeline logic level, not a motive level. At the moment of this call, entirely over the phone from a distance with no presence at the scene, absolutely no ransom note had appeared yet. The case's first ransom note only surfaced a full day later, sent to station KOLD on February 2nd. So the kidnapped for ransom conclusion, stated in the very first hour, wasn't based on any evidence that existed at that point. This speaks to how quickly a conclusion can form in a crisis, not a signal about who did what. Cross-checking this against the case file, 5 months later, this exact kidnapped for ransom theory is the one that multiple named independent experts would publicly reject. Retired FBI profiler James Fitzgerald stated flatly on the podcast, Brian Enton Investigates, that he never believed the ransom note was real, pointing out that a genuine kidnapping should have left some form of on-scene communication that night, which it didn't. On the technical side, per the Daily Beast's sourcing, FBI agents tested this by depositing a small trial amount of Bitcoin into the exact wallet address the note demanded. The money went untouched. No one was actually waiting to collect on the other end. A conclusion reached instantly, with no evidence, in the first hour of the case, turned out to run counter to nearly all the professional analysis published months later. After discussing the camera footage, Hoda asks Savannah directly about the ransom notes.
To a family in pain. But I believe the 2 notes that we received, that we responded to, I tend to believe those are real.
Really?
This is a claim with a very specific timestamp. In March 2026, Savannah publicly said she believed the notes her family responded to were real. Cross-checking this against the case file, and this cross-reference spans the entire 5 months that followed. In June, CNN revealed that back in February, CNN and station KOLD had agreed with law enforcement and the Guthrie family to withhold the exact contents of these notes, so any future contact from the real kidnapper could be verified against unreleased details. That agreement held for nearly 5 months, until CNN's own June 22nd report broke it, revealing the second note's contents. Then, on June 30th, Reuters reported, citing an anonymous FBI source, that the notes were fake. And on July 1st, the FBI's official statement concluded some notes were extortion attempts without legitimacy. In other words, the exact belief Savannah stated publicly in March is the same category of note that the FBI's official statement 4 months later cast the most doubt on, though the FBI also left open the possibility that other notes could still be genuine. A device brand misremembered, an answer that sidesteps a direct question to defend family members, but ends up reinforcing the official conclusion. An instant, evidence-free conclusion that ran counter to most of the professional analysis that followed. And a public belief that the case file, over time, quietly called into question. None of these 4 things means Savannah or her family lied, but all 4 show how the same story can look very different just months later, once more information exists. What do you think about the gap between what people believe in a crisis and what the record actually shows afterward? Leave a comment below, I read everyone, and hit subscribe to see more analysis like this.